produce more individual people or individual variations in their combinations than are on the Earth. Far more than that. There are some Mormon families out there trying to get to every combination of that. A couple of words I grew up with, 10, 11 kids. But, so let's talk about it. This variation is important. You don't want to just have 3 of the same kid, because that would be boring. For a variety of reasons. But when the chromosomes line up, it's kind of a random. It's random. So in this regard, they will line up this way. All the blue ones on this side, red ones on this side. This time they alternate. So when they separate, they will make different. They have different possibilities. You have the blue ones, red ones. Here you have a combination. Now you have these different combinations shown here. Both of these can happen in different gametes and different processes of meiosis. And so you get all these different possibilities. This is just independent assortment. So now just through independent assortment, you get 8 million different chromosome combinations because you have 46 chromosomes. Or 23 in each gamete, but you have 46 that you're pulling from. So 8 million times 8 million, just from independent assortment, and you get a lot of combinations. So then you have all the 8 million different combinations you can make. Now you have millions of sperm that go off to meet one egg, and there are different combinations that come together. So this is called random fertilization. Because we're making all these different types of gametes, only one wins the race and comes together with an egg that has the same random assortments. So you can have 70 trillion different possibilities. And then adding to that is crossing over. This is when the homologous chromosomes exchange information before the process or during the process of meiosis. We call this genetic recombination. So it's the product of new gene combinations in response or between a mother and a father.
I don't know if this has to do with this, but when you talk about like inbreeding and the problems that arise from that, is that from this, or is that involved in something else?
That's something else, but we'll talk about it later in the semester. It's a good way. It's a good way to think, though. Basically, by this random fertilization, this independent assortment of chromosomes, we hide a lot of the genes that cause inbreeding, because usually inbreeding is a combination of defective genes coming together in small gene pools. But through this process, we actually hide those defects, and we aren't inbred. Alright, so in crossing over, you get this crossing over event. The 2 homologous chromosomes line up in prophase 1. They exchange some genetic material, and that gives slightly new chromosomes. So you get these gametes with, some you get, these are called parental gametes, meaning they're similar to what your parents had. And these are recombinant gametes, meaning they're a new combination between mom and dad crossing over. So this can happen 2 to 3 times per chromosome. So 46 chromosomes times 2 or 3, how many different possibilities do we have there? 40, 80, 92, or I can't go over 100, my brain doesn't work that way. What's 96 plus 46? 142? 142? So you've got 142 different events that cause even more variation, times 8 million, times 8 million. So you can see the vast amount of variety that can come from just one couple. This is why you may seem very different from some of your siblings, because all of these different events make you different. All right, 3. No, who has a red? Blue shirt right here.
Which of the following contributes to variation in offspring for sexually reproduced organisms?
All right, if you get this one wrong, I'm going to hit you with the rules if you haven't paid attention the past 2 minutes. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, what is a tetrad? That's a tetrad right here, it means 4. So 4 chromosomes, a tetrad, brave enough to answer this all by yourself? I took the ruler. Somebody else. You always answer. Anybody else? Huh? You answered B. You sure? B? Uh-oh. Answer is D. So it's all of the above. I really can't hit you with the rules or something. I wish I could. All right, so there is lots of variation going on. So, quick question. You are different from your siblings. You may have the same ears or hair or chin or something. You may be about the same height, but you are different. Is it possible for your parents to have the exact same person as you? They have you, and then 2 years later, have the exact same person as you.
Well, you can have a twin at the same time.
Right. So that's actually the good point. So you can have, there are two types of twins. You can have genetically identical twins, whereas an egg and a sperm come together, and the egg actually splits at some point to become two individuals. So they are genetically identical. That is one example.
Aren't the, I don't know, maybe because the homologous chromosomes vary in each person, so homologous chromosomes are different.
Well, yeah, I see where you're going. I see where you're going with that. But let's say they have a baby, and then 2 years later they have another baby. Is it possible that your parents could have the exact same baby?
No.
It's not likely, because it's random. It's not like it's tracking it to make sure it doesn't.
Exactly. It is possible, but because of all the different variation, the chances of the exact same crossing over events, the same independent assortment, and the same sperm swimming the distance and making that same exact combination is highly unlikely. So you could have a clone that could be born in your family. Would it be exactly like you?
No.
Why? Huh? That's part of it, environmental influence. If you've ever seen twins, they're never exactly the same. You can always tell them apart, even though they are genetically identical, because of environmental influence. What's another thing that makes them different? That's getting towards it. What makes them different? Your spirit. You are different people. So even though you are genetically clones, or even if you're twins, or just by total random chance your parents have two of the same kids, you will be different because you have different spirits. So all these movies that talk about cloning and how all this weird stuff that happens, it probably will never happen because they're different spirits, things like that. I hate these slides, so much different. Alright, so meiosis, just like mitosis, is not a perfect process. Occasionally there are problems. So what happens when these errors occur? There are not a lot of fail-safes during meiosis that get rid of bad gametes, and so occasionally you will see abnormal zygotes, I guess you should say. So this can be range in genetic abnormalities from very mild to extremely severe or even fatal. So the most common of these errors is called non-disjunction. It's when a chromosome pair fail to separate during one of the anaphases. It can happen in meiosis 1 or 2, as we'll see. And many of these non-disjunctions, almost all of them, result in miscarriages. So a miscarriage is kind of a sad thing because if somebody wants to have a baby, they keep miscarrying. But it's also nature's way of saving or aborting the life because that life isn't going to be healthier for whatever reason. So if a non-disjunction occurs, you have an extra chromosome. Either an extra chromosome or you're missing a chromosome, as you'll see here. If the organism survives, it will have an abnormal number of genes. So during meiosis, you can get a non-disjunction. This is a normal division in meiosis 1. Here, there is a non-disjunction. The homologous chromosomes